Chapter 1131. Gu Mingming shook her head. I can't guarantee that I will stay here during every rainy season, but I can guarantee that Saint Nazir will become stronger and stronger. So strong that no one will dare to sneak up on us and snatch our food. Mandy was a little disappointed. She pouted. Without you around, the atmosphere in the tribe will be weird. It's as if we are missing our backbone. It makes people feel uneasy. Gu Mingming patted Mandy's little head. Don't worry, everything will get better. Take your claws off her. Ian tooted. His tone was not very friendly. Without Wabi-I around, Ian was the only one left to bicker with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming smirked mischievously. She removed her hand from Mandy's head and spread her palm out in front of Mandy. She stared at Ian provocatively and shouted, Mandy, come, let's hold hands. Ian's eyes were fixed on Gu Mingming. Mandy felt overwhelmed by the favor. She carefully placed her fingertips on Gu Mingming's palm. Gu Mingming lifted her hand up and grabbed Mandy's little hand. Then, she purposely spread her fingers in front of Ian. She interlocked her fingers with Mandy. Then she raised her chin and raised her brows. She looked at Ian with a bite me if you have the guts expression. Ian tooted. He turned to look at Elvis. Your female is seducing others like this. Aren't you going to stop her? Elvis's expression did not change. He just tore off a small piece of roasted meat from Leah and sent it to Gu Mingming's mouth. My Xiaoming likes to bully others. It's her good fortune to have taken a liking to your Mandy. Snatch her back if you have the ability. If not, learn from Bode. Learn from Bode? Ian asked. Elvis looked up and said calmly, I accept my fate. Ian was so angry that he wanted to snatch Mandy back from Gu Mingming's hands. But when he saw how happy Mandy was looking at Gu Mingming with starry eyes, he forced himself to stop. Ian had admitted defeat too quickly. This made Gu Mingming feel very unhappy. When the person being provoked did not react, the provocation became especially boring. Gu Mingming let go of Mandy's hand, then hooked her finger to beckon Mandy to come closer. Mandy did not understand and just did as she was told. Then Gu Mingming whispered into her ear, after the night campfire party, come to my cave. I have something to tell you. Mandy was very puzzled. What could they not say here? But she didn't ask any questions and just nodded obediently. The males in the beast world had excellent hearing, especially at such a close distance. Ian's face turned green. He hugged Mandy's shoulders and pulled her into his arms. He stared at Gu Mingming with his sickly face. Are you really going to bully others? I'm telling you, unless you kill me now, I won't allow you to do whatever you want to Mandy. Puff, Gu Mingming almost choked on her own saliva. She stared at Ian with widened eyes. What do you think I want to do to Mandy? Ian's face flushed red and he looked at Gu Mingming as if he was looking at his love rival. After holding it in for a long time, he said, why don't I fly to Sauter overnight and bring Sandy back for you tomorrow? No matter what you want to do, just look for Sandy. Gu Mingming held back her laughter. She understood that Ian must have thought of her as a lesbian. Chapter 1132. No, no. Mandy hurriedly shook her head and instinctively struggled out of Ian's embrace. She squatted down in front of Gu Mingming and looked straight into her eyes. Afraid that she would misunderstand, she explained, you are the great messenger that I admire the most. How can I not like you? Gu Mingming glanced at Ian with a sly and provocative look, like a mischievous child playing a prank. So, do you like me? Gu Mingming asked deliberately. Mandy nodded without hesitation. I like you, of course I like you. Gu Mingming pounced forward and hugged Mandy tightly. She rested her chin on Mandy's shoulder and looked at Ian with her big eyes full of smiles. I like Mandy too. I like her very, very much, Ian nodded. Ian was going crazy but could not do anything to Gu Mingming. Elvis held onto the back of Gu Mingming's collar and pulled her back into his arms. He said calmly, you look at her more than you look at me. I am jealous. Gu Mingming giggled and held Elvis's face with both hands. She kissed him and said, all right, I will stop fooling around. Let's eat. It was mainly because Ian's angry look was too interesting. Otherwise, Gu Mingming would not have teased Mandy like that. But, Gu Mingming had never thought that she would be mistaken as a homosexual one day. Did Elvis and Leah also have such subtle feelings when she fantasized about them in the past? Leah seemed to be alright, but Elvis seemed to explode at the mention of such things. He would definitely not be able to accept it. Compared to the two of them, Gu Mingming felt that her acceptance level was rather high. It was not real anyway. It was just fooling around. After settling the proper business, Gu Mingming did not have much interest in fooling around with the entire tribe. After all, according to tradition, what was about to happen next would not be harmonious. It was almost winter and the males naturally wanted to fight for the last chance to confess to the females they admired. Not interested in watching everyone clap for love, Gu Mingming left early and returned to the cave. Not long after, Mandy also found an excuse to leave. She circled around the area and headed to Gu Mingming's cave. Ian followed closely as if guarding against thieves, as if he was afraid that Gu Mingming would eat Mandy up. Gu Mingming could not be bothered to argue with him and just sprawled lazily by the stone table. When she saw Mandy, she waved her hand and gestured for her to sit over. After Mandy sat down, Leah carried a big pot of meat to the table. My Mingming cannot eat too much barbecued meat. She will have a nosebleed, so I came back to prepare a special stove. If you can still eat, why don't you accompany my Mingming to eat some? Mandy was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Leah very gentlemanly took out 2 bowls, one for Gu Mingming and the other for Mandy. Then he scooped 2 bowls of meat for the 2 females to chat while they ate. Gu Mingming didn't beat around the bush and said directly, Mandy, I called you here today because I want to drag you down with me to do something bad. Mandy looked at Gu Mingming as she ate. All right, what are you doing? Gu Mingming chuckled. Perhaps this was the effect of idols? This Mandy, she actually agreed first before asking what it was about. Because of her admiration, she felt that idols were extremely beautiful even when they scratched their feet. Fortunately, she was not a bad person. Otherwise, even if she were to be sold, she would still be counting the money. Chapter 1133. Mandy looked at Gu Mingming, not really understanding. Gu Mingming said, I want all females to keep their distance from her and not play with her. Mandy nodded in realization and said with a smile, Ah, I understand now that you put it this way. Without asking why, Mandy nodded and continued. No problem, leave this matter to me. Before sunset tomorrow, I guarantee that none of the 16 valued females will bother with her. Gu Mingming chuckled approvingly. Then she added, But you can't let anyone know that I am the one who ordered you to do this. Mandy nodded. No problem. Gu Mingming scooped another bowl of meat for Mandy. Eat more. Mandy replied and ate a few more bowls. Gu Mingming's appetite wasn't big and she had roasted meat during the night campfire party. Hence, most of the stewed meat went into Mandy's stomach. After finishing her meal, Mandy licked her lips and bade farewell to Gu Mingming reluctantly. She then followed Ian back to her own cave. Leah smiled at Gu Mingming as he tidied up the cutlery. Looks like we have the same idea. Gu Mingming chuckled in Elvis's arms. In the beast world, females are the most respected. Mated males treat their females like deities. As long as the 16 valued females ostracize Maya, it will be difficult for her to do anything in St. Nazir. After all, half of the people in St. Nazir are males from the 16 valued females. The other half are their pursuers. Without anyone to cooperate, Maya can't do anything. Leah continued Gu Mingming's words with approval. Gu Mingming nodded. I never thought that Maya had a problem before, so I didn't think so. Now that I think about it, Nina was really wronged. Her domineering personality was at least 80% due to Maya's incitement, right? I even thought that Maya was the one bullying Maya and that Maya was the type to swallow her anger. I didn't expect her to be the other way around. Leah rubbed his nose. It was rare for him to feel guilty. After all, he was the one who allowed Maya to incite Nina. Elvis could tell that Leah was feeling uneasy, so he interrupted. Do you really think Mandy can order those females around? I think they're also fighting each other openly and covertly. They don't look like they'll be obedient. Gu Mingming smiled and said, Give them a common enemy and they will naturally unite. Actually, Elvis did not quite understand what Gu Mingming meant, so she explained, Humans have a crowd mentality. When everyone did this, it became a matter of course. Even if you felt that something was wrong, if you didn't do it, you would become an anomaly. This would make people very uneasy and they would compromise with themselves. In the end, they would go with the flow. In order to prove that he wasn't an anomaly, he suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and went even further than ordinary people. Elvis did not understand, but Lee's smile deepened. He even stopped washing the dishes and sat beside Gu Mingming, attentively listening to Gu Mingming's analysis. Gu Mingming had a feeling that the great Gu hoodwinking lecture was about to start again. Chapter 1134. Let's take Maya as an example. Gu Mingming chuckled, then continued, I purposely arranged for her to sit beside me during the night campfire party today, and even called her over to my campfire to talk for a while. This was an opportunity for her to be hated. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, asking, But Mandy also sat beside you and went to talk to you, so will she be ostracized too? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Mandy is the first beauty of the beast world that I personally named. She has taken the little bamboo cup that I personally made and has become my partner with my good friend Ian. She can come to the cave to eat, chat and play with me whenever she wants. If she sits beside me, everyone will only take it for granted. But Maya is different. Gu Mingming's gaze turned cold and with a hint of slyness she said, although the 16 valued females come from different tribes, they came to Saint Nazir together. They are on the same starting line and have a kind of empathy for one another. And Maya, the original half-orc female of Saint Nazir, will never be able to blend into the circle of the 16 valued females. If she had a good relationship with me like Sandy, it would still be alright. But unfortunately our relationship is just SOSO. If Leah had not suggested for me to reveal the news to her today, I would have forgotten about this person. Gu Mingming paused, then said, if I really forget about her, it would be a good thing for her. After all, she knows how to show her weakness, putting on a cowardly look whenever she meets people, and is highly deceptive. Most females would not make things difficult for her, because a complete female would not even bother to treat a half-orc female like her as an opponent. But she just had to be like this, suddenly becoming the center of attention today. There must be some among the 16 valued females who are unconvinced, such as what right does a lowly half-orc female like her have to sit beside the messenger of the beast deity? Or, just because she is an original female of Saint Nazir, she can claim a relationship with the messenger? How shameless, and other reasons are enough to make her ostracize. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and continued, and what Mandy has to do is just to randomly start a conversation, then add some fuel to the fire. Leah held his cheek and looked at Gu Mingming, his long and narrow eyes filled with approval. He loved Gu Mingming's craftiness like a little fox, it was really charming. Lusting after her radiant look, Leah continued asking, are you so sure that those females will only target Maya and won't implicate Mandy? Gu Mingming nodded without a doubt and said, girls will not be jealous of Fan Bingbing's beauty, but they will be jealous of Wang Erhua from the class next door who has lost another 2 kilograms, and the neighbor Zhao Xiaomei's newly removed double eyelids are especially beautiful. Chapter 1135. Li's face darkened. He looked at Gu Mingming and asked, so, you were crying and throwing a tantrum back then not because you were sad about leaving me, but because you felt indignant about losing to Nina? Am I right? Gu Mingming did not react in time and could not keep up with Li's pace. She was stunned for a while before she understood that her analogy had struck an old wound in Li's heart. So she quickly smoothed it out and said, I was just making an analogy, I didn't mean it that way. Leah clearly did not believe her. He frowned and his long and narrow eyes were filled with desolation. The words I am sad were clearly written on his face. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry. How long had it been? Sigh. The speaker did not mean it but the listener did. Gu Mingming held Li's face and kissed it. She said, then I won't use Nina as an analogy. I'll use Maya, alright? If you abandon me because of Maya, I will definitely be indignant. Leah looked down and twisted his fingers. He pursed his thin lips and said, you still blame me, right? Because of that, you have a knot in your heart so you don't believe me anymore, right? In your heart, you can't get rid of the fact that I abandoned you, right? Gu Mingming facepalmed. Why did she feel like she was making things worse? Why was she coaxing him making things worse? No. Gu Mingming held Li's face with both hands and wanted to explain. Leah raised his brows slightly and choked with emotions. He said, you don't have to deny it. I understand. Who asked me to be the one at fault back then? Gu Mingming said, no. Leah turned his head to the other side and looked like he was about to cry. He looked extremely wronged. Gu Mingming saw that she could not coax him anymore. So she narrowed her eyes and quickly pinched Li's ear. She said, yes, I was just unhappy with the show you put up with Nina. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, I can't forgive you for saying that you don't love me. So you better stay away from other females in the future. If I see you being nice to other females other than me again, I will pinch your ear off. Do you hear me? With Gu Mingming's roar, Leah was no longer pretentious. He looked at Gu Mingming affectionately and nodded his head seriously, like a Samoyed being reprimanded by its owner. He looked innocent and pitiful, making others dote on him. He took the initiative to wrap his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and gave her a full hug. My Gu Mingming is the best. I knew you wouldn't care about me. Gu Mingming held her forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. What kind of despicable person was Leah? She couldn't coax him, so after shouting a few times he calmed down. But wasn't he analyzing Maya's situation just now? What was I saying? But I have to correct one thing. Leah rested his chin on Gu Mingming's shoulder and looked at her sideways. Melinda is not as good as you. Everyone in this world is not as good as you. You won't lose to anyone. Gu Mingming could not help but laugh out loud. She was actually happy to be praised by her own man. Even though Gu Mingming felt that objectively speaking, Melinda was prettier than her. But who wouldn't want to be the prettiest girl in her man's heart? Gu Mingming hugged Li's head with both hands and rubbed it. Then she continued. Yeah, you have good taste. Keep it up. Because of Li's interruption, Gu Mingming had forgotten to analyze this matter in detail. But anyway, the results would be displayed in front of her tomorrow. There was no difference whether she analyzed it or not. Aside from the topic, there were still 4 days before the release. Yeah, it should be around 120,000 on the first day. Babies, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Chapter 1136. Mandy indeed did not disappoint Gu Mingming. The next morning was still fine, but by noon the atmosphere in St. Nazaire was clearly different. As Elvis had already stored enough food and did not need to go out hunting, Gu Mingming let him accompany her to walk around the tribe. On one hand it was to check if there were any loopholes, and on the other hand she wanted to see Mandy's results. By the stream, the 16 valued females were sitting in a circle discussing something. When they saw Gu Mingming, they all stood up and greeted her in a docile manner. Gu Mingming waved at Mandy, who walked over with a smile. What were you talking about just now? Why are you smiling so happily? Gu Mingming asked, even though she already knew the answer. After all, with her current hearing, she had already heard their conversation from afar. Mandy chuckled and replied, Liana and the rest took in a few new males last night and are showing us her mating marks. Yeah, Gu Mingming heard this just now. Liana's new partner last night, mark on her butt. To prevent Liana from lifting up her beast skin skirt to show her new mark, Gu Mingming spoke first. Last winter, there were 3 females in Solder who gave birth to cubs, and one was pregnant with a female cub. This year all of you must fight hard for me. Don't let others say that my 16 valued females are good-looking but useless, understand? Great messenger, don't worry. We have sufficient food this winter, and with you, the leader and the witch doctor around, we don't need to worry about being disturbed. We will work hard to mate and fight hard for the great messenger when winter ends next year. We won't let those foxes in Solder lose out. The one speaking was Liana. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and said, Females are the tribe's precious resource, and cubs are the foundation of a tribe's strength. All of you must work hard, the glory of St. Nazaire depends on all of you. The females were all fighting to be the first to agree to Gu Mingming's request, as if they were injected with chicken blood. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and thought to herself, Males, this is as far as I can help you. As they were chatting and laughing, Maya also arrived at the stream. But before they even got close, the faces of the 16 valued females darkened. Gu Mingming pretended not to understand and looked at everyone, then at Maya, not saying a word. Mandy exchanged glances with the 16 valued females before walking to Gu Mingming's side. She said coquettishly, Gu Mingming, I have a secret to tell you. Follow me back to my cave to take a look, alright? Gu Mingming naturally had to go along with Mandy's act, so she nodded. Alright. After agreeing, he said to the others, Sorry girls, Mandy and I will be leaving first. I'll chat with you another day. Take care, great messenger. Goodbye, great messenger. The 16 valued females smiled and waved at Gu Mingming, then watched her leave. Chapter 1137. I'm also a female of St. Nazaire. Maya said timidly. Liana chuckled and crossed her arms in front of her chest. So what? We are complete females and have the right to enjoy the tribe's resources first. A lowly half-orc female like you dares to snatch from us? After Nina's death, it had been a long time since anyone in St. Nazaire talked about complete females and half-orc females. Because of Gu Mingming's relationship with Sandy, she was very lenient towards the half-orc females. Hence, the 16 valued females had been very restrained in the past year and had never argued with Sandy and Maya. However, the sense of superiority that had been ingrained from birth could not be completely worn away in just over a year. There was really no need to learn how to flaunt their prowess in front of the half-orc females. Every complete female could do it easily. Especially when the 15 present were the original first beauties of the tribe. This sense of superiority was even more obvious. All of them were at the peak of their abilities. Gu Mingming said that in St. Nazaire, half-orc females are not inferior to complete females. We are all the same. Maya could not keep up the act any longer. She clenched her fists tightly by her side and her voice was sharp. Liana looked as if she had heard a joke. She lifted her chin and looked at Maya. "Oh, are you trying to curry favor with the great messenger just because you are an old tribesman of Saint Nazir? Are you trying to show how close you are to the great messenger so that you can use her name to pressure us?" "That's not what I meant." Maya felt that things were getting out of hand. Everything had been fine yesterday, but she did not know why things had turned out this way today. Her males had gone out to hunt in the morning and all of them were injured when they returned. She asked in detail and found out that they had been bullied by the males of the 16 valued females. Not only had they snatched their prey, they had also severely injured them. Although Saint Nazir had a witch doctor, the injuries of ordinary males could not even trouble Leah to treat them. Hence they could only force themselves to endure. Maya did not know what had happened, so she specially ran over to the stream to find out what was going on. In the end, she realized that these females had started to target her for no reason. All of this was too sudden. She couldn't understand what was going on. Liana did not have the patience to talk nonsense with Maya. She just took a step back and said, "Where are your males? Are they here? What do you want?" Maya looked at the 16 valued females standing in front of her, her heart pounding. Liana said, "I don't want to see you here. You can either scram immediately, or let your male come out and compete with our male. The winner will stay." As soon as Liana finished speaking, the 16 valued females gave their partners a meaningful look, and the accompanying males gathered in unison. In the beast world, a female would have at least 2 family members by her side, the first partner and the strongest male in the family. The 2 of them usually didn't need to go out to hunt. They would always stay by the female's side to ensure that she lived comfortably and safely. Just like Sandy's Boyd and Colin and Mandy's Ralph and Ian. Therefore, almost all the orcs that surrounded them were level 3 and level 4 orcs. Maya only had a level 2 wolf, Nissan, with her. How could she possibly be a match for them? "You." Maya's eyes reddened. She stomped her feet, turned around and ran away. She looked extremely wronged. Chapter 1138. Liana snorted coldly. "Do you think we can hide our little tricks from the great messenger?" "You mean?" Liana continued. With the great messenger's intelligence, the moment Mandy said we were going to pull her away, she knew what we were going to do. If the great messenger wanted to help that half-orc female, she could have stayed or asked her to leave with her. But the great messenger left with Mandy without even turning back. Isn't it obvious that she will not side with her? "Yeah, that makes sense." Another female agreed. Liana continued. "Maya is not Sandy. Even if she really complained to the great messenger, she will not pursue the matter even if we deny it. But, if she really dares to sow discord in front of the great messenger and ruin our image, we will show her the prowess of the 16 valued females." The 10 over females roared with laughter. Then they all started to think about how to teach Maya a lesson. Elvis, who had been by Gu Mingming's side all along, felt his scalp go numb. He carried Gu Mingming up and turned to leave. No way, these females were too scary. He could not let Xiaomeng stay with them anymore. She would be scared. However, he seemed to have forgotten. The one who had instigated these females to target Maya was the little fairy in his arms. After walking for some distance, Gu Mingming patted Mandy's shoulder. "Now that I have dragged you down with me, we can be considered to have been in the same boat. Although Ian had never been my messenger's protector, his importance to me wasn't any lower than Colin's. So, you can treat me like a good friend like Sandy in the future. When you need my help, you can look for me in my cave. When you miss me, you can also look for me, yeah." Mandy smiled so widely that only her teeth could be seen. It was 70% blissful and 30% sweet. Gu Mingming smiled back. "It's almost noon. Do you want to have lunch together?" Mandy's eyes instinctively darted to Elvis's face. She was clearly trying to read his expression. It was almost winter, and by then, Gu Mingming would have to stay in the cave no matter how much she liked crowds. So before the snow sealed off the mountain, Elvis did not stop her even though he was unwilling. He nodded, silently allowing Mandy to accompany Gu Mingming for a meal. Mandy was overjoyed as she nodded. Then she turned to her partner and said, "Ralph, send me to the outskirts of Gu Mingming's territory, then go back and ask Ian to fetch me." "All right." Ralph nodded, then carried Mandy up and followed Elvis back to the cave. As winter was approaching, Oriton, who shared meals with them, treated every meal as his last. As a result, the amount of prey he brought back increased day by day, causing Leah, who was in charge of cooking, to have a bad expression on his face. There were a few times when he wanted to reject Oriton's request to share a meal with him, but on account of Gu Mingming, he held himself back. When Gu Mingming returned, she saw Oriton circling around the pot. Barit was like a silent ranger sitting quietly at the entrance of the cave, his deep and precise gaze capturing Gu Mingming's figure. Meanwhile, Leah was looking at Oriton with disdain while cooking. Seeing that Gu Mingming had returned, the smile on his face turned warmer. Chapter 1139. TSK. Leah was speechless as he shook his head in amazement. This female's technique is really... Gu Mingming chuckled and continued Li's sentence. There is no smoke on a woman's battlefield, but it is far crueler than a man's. Leah nodded in deep agreement. Just hearing Gu Mingming's plan to deal with Maya from the 16 valued females was already enough to make Leah gasp in amazement. He had always thought that the Snow Fox tribe was good at scheming, but now he realized that their so-called scheming only applied to making use of others. They would only act after obtaining benefits, so as long as they followed the lines of benefits, they would always be able to find clues. Even for a pervert like Cole, there were still benefits to be gained from guessing people's intentions. But when the females were ruthless, they would simply harm you without any benefits at all. Their motives were so pure that it made one speechless. So much so that it was impossible to deduce the course of events from the conclusion, because the final outcome would be someone's misfortune, and no one would gain anything from it. Leah facepalmed as he thought about it. He suddenly felt that those accidents that he did not take to heart in the past were not so simple. Gu Mingming did not say much and just continued eating from her bowl. With the 16 valued females taking care of Maya, even if I am not in Saint Nazir, Maya's days will not be too boring. He would not have the time and energy to obstruct Gu Mingming's actions. Mandy finished the meat in her bowl, then looked up at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming, there is something I feel I should tell you. Gu Mingming looked back at Mandy, inquiring with her eyes. Mandy said, when I went to meet the 16 valued females this morning, I purposely raised the topic of Maya and heard something strange. Gu Mingming replied with a single syllable, indicating for Mandy to continue. Mandy continued, during the rainy season last year, there were many people from other tribes who came to Saint Nazir to snatch food. But every time there was an invasion, Maya was not in the tribe. Even though a lot of her food was snatched away when we saw her at the end of winter, we realized that she did not lose any weight at all. Moreover, her partners were all there. What he meant was that even though Maya's food had been stolen, she was still able to enjoy a sumptuous winter, and it wasn't at the expense of eating her companion. Gu Mingming chuckled. She was not surprised by this outcome at all. She just exchanged a look with Leah and it was a tacit understanding. Oakley wanted to use the water source to push solder to the teeth of the storm to coerce Cole, so Cole used the food to drag Saint Nazir into the water to share the risk. Since it was Cole's doing, he would naturally give Maya some pointers. After all, most of the males who would come to snatch the food were already mated. In order to prevent their own females from starving, there was a high possibility that they would kill Maya when snatching the food. After all, as long as Maya died, her male would be devoured by the mating contract. This way, the food that her family had stored up would become ownerless, and they could take whatever they wanted. Maya was an important chess piece in the game between Cole and Leah. Naturally, Cole would not let Maya die so easily. So it was natural for him to give her a few pointers before she made a move. He couldn't let the food robbers kill Maya, and naturally he wouldn't let her starve to death during the winter. Chapter 1140. Mandy saw that Gu Mingming was not surprised at all and was even exchanging glances with Leah. Mandy thought for a moment and asked, "You already knew?" Gu Mingming did not hide anything from Maya and nodded. "Yeah, I knew." Mandy nodded. "That's true. You are the messenger of the beast deity. You must know everything." Gu Mingming chuckled. She thought to herself that the messenger of the beast deity was not a half-immortal. How could she know everything? It was just that Leah had told her about Maya's identity. Many things became clear at a glance. There was no need to explain too much. Sometimes it was good to maintain a sense of mystery. Mandy had just finished the meat in her bowl when Ian came to fetch her. He even placed a beast skin bag on the table. "My man has freeloaded a few meals at your place. Consider this a gift in return." With that, Ian did not waste any more words. He carried Mandy and flew into the sky. Gu Mingming snorted arrogantly. "So what if you can fly?" A reply came from the sky. "Yes, it's great to be able to fly." Gu Mingming waved her fist and roared. "Just you wait." Despite her roar, Gu Mingming was not really angry. She just casually flipped open the beast skin bag on the table. There were over 50 bird eggs the size of chicken eggs inside. According to the ratio in the beast world, these eggs were probably equivalent to quail eggs in the modern world. Leah craned his neck to take a look. He smiled. And you're good. It's almost winter and the birds are not laying eggs anymore. You must have flown for a long time to find these, right? Laughing, Leah raised his voice and shouted in the direction that Ian had flown off to. Hain, welcome your female to join us for a meal again. Gu Mingming burst out laughing. If Leah were to wave a handkerchief in his hand now, he would look like a brothel madam from a television drama. Leah did not know what Gu Mingming was laughing at. He just habitually curled his lips at her smile. Then he turned around to continue preparing the food. Elvis, who had been silent all this while, tightened his arms around Gu Mingming's waist. Xiaoming, in the future, you better not hang out with the 16 valued females. They are too dangerous. Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis with a smile, are you scared? Elvis nodded. If it was a tactic aimed at him, he was not afraid of anything. But he was especially afraid that those methods would be used on Gu Mingming one day. In the past he had felt that females were annoying, but now he felt that they were terrifying. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and patted his back lightly to comfort him. Don't worry, they won't use those tricks on me. Even if he used it, it wouldn't be enough in front of me. I've watched more than 700 episodes of Detective Conan, and I'm proficient in more than 600 ways to kill people. I'm familiar with hundreds of poisons and know how to create all kinds of alibis. Seeing how Gu Mingming was spouting nonsense, Elvis's mood suddenly became better. No matter what others wanted to do to her, he would always be there to protect her. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the mountain was covered in snow. Gu Mingming sat at the entrance of the cave. Holding her chin, she watched as the entrance, which could fit 3 people side by side, was gradually sealed by the snow. Her gaze became a little dazed. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming from behind and whispered into her ear, "It's too cold, don't sit at the entrance." Chapter 1141. Ever since Gu Mingming inherited Elvis's night vision ability, they no longer stayed in the outermost chamber of the cave. It was too close to the cave entrance and was not the most comfortable place in the cave. Previously, they stayed there just to accommodate Gu Mingming's need for a light source. Gu Mingming rubbed her little hands and said, "On the first day of sealing the mountain, I'll let you guys try something good." Elvis and Leah looked at each other, not knowing what Gu Mingming meant. After all, every piece of meat and potato in this cave was carried back by the 2 of them personally. What other good things could make Gu Mingming act so mysteriously? But since the little female had such an interest, the 2 of them were naturally willing to cooperate. So they smiled and looked at Gu Mingming expectantly. Gu Mingming took the small bamboo cup that she made in the bamboo forest and walked to the side of the wooden barrel. She lifted the lid and leaned against the barrel to smell it. Yeah, a fruity aroma mixed with a rich wine aroma. It should be drinkable. Gu Mingming did not pass it to Elvis and Leah hastily. She first poured half a cup into her own small cup and tasted it carefully. Without professional equipment, she could not extract the sugar, so the sourness was not balanced. It was more like grape juice than red wine. But if one tasted it carefully, it was not difficult to discover that there was alcohol in it. Actually, the taste was still very good. But Gu Mingming herself had not drunk any high-quality wine in the modern world. But compared to the Great Wall Dry Red, Gu Mingming felt that her portion was still better. Gu Mingming then poured a cup for Leah and Elvis respectively after the wine was fine. Then she gestured for them to try it. Leah was a little surprised. He knocked on the wooden barrel and said, "This is for drinking? I thought you wanted to use it for bathing." Gu Mingming could not help but laugh and said, "I've only heard of people using milk to bathe. I've never seen anyone using red wine to bathe." "Red wine?" Leah asked. Gu Mingming nodded and answered, "Yeah, usually wine is brewed from grains. But I've been here for more than 2 years and have never seen a single grain of rice. I can't even eat it, let alone brew wine. Luckily, grapes can also be used to brew wine. Although the purity is not high, it's still good to drink it. Would you like to try it?" Elvis and Leah did not say anything else. Anything given by Gu Mingming, even if it was poison, they would drink it in one gulp and praise it as delicious. What more, a glass of wine? The way they drank without hesitation made Gu Mingming frown. Red wine was a matter of taste. How did these 2 manage to taste like guillotine? If there was a wooden board stuck on the back of their necks, the 2 of them should have smashed the cup after drinking this bowl of wine, and then righteously said, 18 years later, we will be heroes again." Before Gu Mingming could complain, she heard a loud thud and Elvis fell straight onto the ground. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately squatted down to hug Elvis's head, patting his face and calling, "Hubby? Hubby, what happened to you? Are you allergic to grapes? Don't scare me." Huff, huff, huff. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment. She blinked her eyes and looked at Elvis, whose face was rosy and his breathing was even and did not look like he was allergic at all. She was stunned for a moment before she laughed dryly and said, "It can't be. 1 cup and you'll pass out." Chapter 1142. Leah. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry. She should not have allowed them to drink at the same time. She had forgotten that there were no alcohol products in the beast world and these two had no resistance to it at all. She had thought that they might get drunk, but she did not expect them to be so drunk after just 1 cup. Leah frowned and pinched Gu Mingming's face with his large hands, forcefully turning her mouth into a fish's mouth. Then he kissed her harshly and said angrily, "What did you call me?" Leah. Before Gu Mingming could finish her sentence, Leah kissed her again, crushing the word "ya" in her mouth. Squinting his dangerous eyes, Leah said domineeringly, "Call me Daddy." Gu Mingming really wanted to spit a mouthful of red wine on Lee's face. Ever since she gave birth to Huda and his brothers, she did not call him Daddy anymore. She thought he had long forgotten about it. "Stop fooling around, let me put Elvis on the bed first, alright?" Gu Mingming tried to reason with Leah. But Leah did not care about that and squeezed himself in between Gu Mingming and Elvis. Then he squeezed Elvis out of Gu Mingming's embrace and made her his own. His large tail wrapped around her waist and he clung onto Gu Mingming like an octopus, saying, "Call me Daddy, quickly call me Daddy." Leah, Leah did not stop until he heard Gu Mingming call him Daddy. He kissed her lips harshly again. When they let go, both of their lips were slightly swollen. His gaze was filled with hidden bitterness and his drunken state was the most blurry. His gaze landed on Gu Mingming's face and he said softly, "In the past you would always call me Leah Daddy obediently, but now you don't. Gu Mingming, little Gu Mingming, did you have a change of heart? Do you think I don't look good anymore?" Gu Mingming knew that Leah was drunk, so she gave up trying to reason with a drunkard. She could only go along with his wishes and called out softly, "Daddy Leah." Leah froze for half a second before suddenly crying. As he cried, he hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her randomly. He choked as he kissed. I must be dying, right? Otherwise why would you be so obedient? You must be thinking that I'm going to die. Sob, 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 I don't want to die yet, I still want to accompany you. What will you do if I die? You can't eat Elvis's cooking, you'll be poisoned to death. Was the logic of a drunkard fed to the dogs? He asked her to call Leah Daddy and she did, so he was going to die? What the F***ck was this? This was the first time Gu Mingming saw Leah cry, and it was in such a situation. Sighing, Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and patted his back to comfort him. You won't die. You still want to grow old with me, don't you?" "Yes." Leah cried aggrievedly and only managed to spit out one word after a few turns. Gu Mingming said, "All right, come down quickly, you're so heavy. Mingming, do you still like me?" Leah didn't get up and just looked at Gu Mingming drunkenly. Gu Mingming was helpless and could only reply with a smile, "I like it, of course I like it." Leah nodded in satisfaction, then said, "Then you lick me." Chapter 1143. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Mingming's face, saying, "Here, just like this." Similar to how dogs express their love? Yeah, orcs still had some beast genes in them, licking should be the most direct way for them to express their love, right? But it was so embarrassing, Gu Mingming felt that she could not do it. "You don't like it?" Lee's gaze was blurry with a tinge of infatuation and drunkenness. He stuck out his pink tongue and licked the tip of Gu Mingming's nose, saying, "I like Gu Mingming so much, why can't Gu Mingming like me a little too?" Gu Mingming felt all the bones in her body go limp after being licked by Leah. "Don't stop fooling around." Leah paused, then sniffed. He suddenly smiled and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his index finger, saying, "I can smell the scent of the fox seductive fragrance. My Gu Mingming is aroused, because of me, right? You like me licking you?" No. Gu Mingming wanted to kill herself. Leah was clearly teasing her unconsciously when he was drunk, but her damn body actually reacted. Gu Mingming despised herself harshly in her heart and kept telling herself to stay calm, stay calm. It was a perverted act to lay hands on someone who was not in his right mind. She was a good wife from a good family, she would not do such a thing. Leah bit Gu Mingming's lips. Hearing Gu Mingming gasping in pain, he seemed to be smiling happily, wiping away his tears and curling his lips, saying, "Punish you, who asked you not to tell the truth? Gu Mingming, you're not good, you secreted so much fox seductive fragrance when I licked you, the last time when I licked here, the concentration of the fox's seductive fragrance almost made me lose consciousness. His slender fingers gently wiped Gu Mingming's lips, asking, "Did I bite you?" It's all red, it must be painful." As he said, he pulled Gu Mingming's hand and placed it on his chest, saying, "If you're in pain, I feel the pain too. Damn, don't bite me if you're feeling heartache." Moreover, what kind of scene was that when he said that he felt heartache and smiled at the same time? Seeing that Gu Mingming was not saying anything, Leah blinked his eyes as if his brain was broken and he was trying hard to organize his thoughts. After a long while, he finally said, "Why don't I lick you? You can lick me after you're happy?" Gu Mingming was really speechless. They were not even two damn dogs. Why were they licking? Gu Mingming hardened her heart and thought if she should just release some beast pressure to make Leah faint. But before she could do anything, she heard a sound from the side. When she looked up, Elvis, who was lying on the ground like a corpse, was already standing there with his hands behind his back. He was looking down at Gu Mingming, who was lying on the ground under Leah. "Xiaoming, get up." Elvis's voice was cold and his expression was sinister. He looked completely different from his usual self. Gu Mingming was a little terrified. Could it be that she developed a second personality after drinking? She pushed Leah, but Leah just lay on Gu Mingming's body, refusing to get up. Gu Mingming had no choice but to look up at Elvis. In the end, the moment she met his eyes, she felt her body becoming lighter. Leah was thrown out by Elvis in a parabola trajectory, crashing heavily against the cave wall. Elvis then lifted Gu Mingming up and said coldly, "I said get up." Damn, Elvis looked so scary after drinking. Could it be that he was going to commit domestic violence after drinking? Aside from the topic, these two fellows passed out after one drink. Their styles after getting drunk were completely different. Yeah, everyone can look forward to what kind of jokes these two fellows would make tomorrow. Hence, she clenched her fists and instantly released a huge amount of beast pressure, causing Elvis and Leah to fall to the ground in a second. Elvis's body went limp and he laid on Lee's body. Lee's claws had already pierced into Elvis's back and half of his nails were embedded in his flesh. One of Elvis's hands was holding onto Lee's silver hair tightly while the other hand that was about to attack Leah landed weakly beside Lee's ear. Chapter 1145. Gu Mingming sighed. Forget it, these two fellows had real fur on their bodies and they would not feel cold even if they slept on the floor. Just let them be. Gu Mingming shook her head helplessly and poured herself another glass of grape wine. She tasted it carefully and it tasted really good. Moreover, the purity was really not high. She did not know why the two of them were so drunk. After drinking 2 to 3 glasses, Gu Mingming felt tipsy, so she covered the glass and climbed back into bed to sleep. She did not know how long she slept in a daze. But when Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis and Leah had not woken up yet. The two of them were still in the same position as when they were fighting. But now they seemed to be more intimate. Elvis loosened his grip on Lee's hair so he was no longer in a state of grabbing but, in my hand that went through your silver hair. His other hand that was originally going to attack Leah had now gone through the back of Lee's neck and was used as a pillow under his head. Lee's claws that were originally stuck in Elvis's waist had loosened a little and his nails had already been pulled out from his flesh. But now, his 2 arms were wrapped around Elvis's waist as if he was hugging him. 4 long legs were intertwined and the beast skin dress had already become crooked during the fight. It was a pathetic and ambiguous scene and it was half covered and half exposed, making it even more tempting for one's imagination. Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time. She stared blankly at this scene that was even more seductive than a calcium film. Blood flowed down her nose uncontrollably. Elvis and Leah were traumatized by Gu Mingming's blood because of the scene of Gu Mingming's difficult labor when she gave birth to Kanwu and how Snakel carried Gu Mingming back in the Snake King Valley. So the moment they smelled her blood, the two of them woke up in shock. The first second after they opened their eyes, they were in a daze. Then, shock. Elvis and Leah originally thought that they were hugging Gu Mingming, so their first reaction when they opened their eyes was to stare at each other affectionately. But with just one look, the two of them were petrified. They immediately bounced back as if they were electrocuted. Then the two of them peeked at Gu Mingming in unison. Seeing the blood dripping from her nose, he gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and supported the back of her head with his hand to raise her head. Leah, on the other hand, quickly went to the door and dug out 2 large chunks of snow, using his body to melt it into water, before patting it on Gu Mingming's forehead and nose bridge. The temperature of the snow was very low. After Leah melted the snow with his hands were also very cold. When he touched Gu Mingming's skin, there was an icy feeling and it was very comfortable. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes and giggled foolishly while Elvis and Lee's faces darkened even further. Erase whatever you're thinking about right now. Leah smacked Gu Mingming's forehead as he commanded, almost gritting his teeth. Gu Mingming feigned ignorance and smiled. What am I thinking? I wasn't thinking about anything. Leah looked at Gu Mingming coldly and pinched her little nose. You have a nosebleed when you didn't think of anything? Gu Mingming held back her laughter. She looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Then she stuck one hand into Lee's hair and the other around his neck. She looked at Leah lustfully and asked, "Are you trying to make me forget about this?" Chapter 1146. Just now when she woke up, Elvis was hugging Leah in this position, but the look between Elvis and Leah was definitely not like what Gu Mingming was showing now. But as the impact was too great, Elvis and Leah were already in a daze, so they did not notice this detail. With that, Gu Mingming turned around and walked behind Elvis. She crossed her legs around Elvis's waist and placed her right hand on Elvis's right shoulder. She lowered it and placed it on Elvis's chest while her left hand went under Elvis's left armpit and hooked upwards, touching Elvis's heart. Her little head landed on Elvis's left shoulder and she opened her mouth. Closing her teeth, she bit on Elvis's shoulder. Before she let go, she even licked Elvis's shoulder with the tip of her tiny tongue, causing Elvis to shudder. Gu Mingming smiled innocently, looking up at Leah and asked, "Or do you want me to forget about this?" With that, Gu Mingming got down from Elvis's body again, drawing circles on the bite mark on Elvis's left shoulder with her little hand. From the size of the bite mark, it was obvious that it was not Gu Mingming's, and there were 4 deeper holes, obviously made by her fangs. Leah instantly felt as if he was struck by lightning, staring at Gu Mingming in shock. The snow had sealed the mountain and there were only 3 people in this cave. Gu Mingming did not have fangs, so unless Elvis could pull his own head off and place it on his shoulder to bite himself, that bite mark could only be him. The scene of Gu Mingming seductively hanging onto Elvis's body replayed endlessly in Lee's mind, then automatically replaced with his own. Leah fell and sat on the ground, feeling as though all his hopes had been dashed to pieces. Elvis was not much better than Leah. The act of putting his hands in his hair and hugging his neck was imitated by Gu Mingming, then the act of hugging his back and biting his shoulder was obviously imitated by her. Elvis clenched his fists and asked in a cold voice, "Leah and I, last night, happened? He could not bring himself to ask. Gu Mingming tried hard to hold back her laughter and said, "So many things happened, do you want me to replay them one by one for you to see?" "No need." Leah looked up abruptly and took a deep breath. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "You just have to tell me one thing. Between the 2 of us, who was on top and who was on bottom?" Gu Mingming was laughing like a dog in her heart, but it was such a rare opportunity. He had to hold it in. Thus, Gu Mingming tapped her chin lightly with her little hand, as if she was trying hard to recall. Then she said, "Oh, you were pressed down by Elvis yesterday? And beaten up." Gu Mingming did not say the last word naughtily. Lee's face turned green and Elvis was no better. So, both of them betrayed Gu Mingming and did something indescribable in front of her? Elvis staggered to the side of the wine barrel and raised his paw to smash it. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately rushed over to block the barrel. She stared wide-eyed at Elvis and asked, "What are you doing?" Elvis's eyes were bloodshot and when he looked at Gu Mingming, he felt like his heart was aching. He squeezed out a sentence from the gaps of his teeth, word by word, "Let me destroy this harmful thing first. Then you can punish me, all right?" Gu Mingming was taken aback when she met Elvis's eyes. She wanted to play a prank but did not want to hurt Elvis and Lee's hearts. Chapter 1147. "Hubby, don't be angry, listen to my explanation." Gu Mingming tried to comfort Elvis, but Elvis smiled bitterly and said, You have already decided not to want me, right? So I have no right to destroy your things." "It's not like that." Gu Mingming shook her head, but Elvis did not give her a chance to finish her sentence. He took a step back and opened his chest as if he was about to die a martyr. He said, "Come on, end me. If I can die in your hands, I can die without regrets." Gu Mingming felt guilty. She did not want to play to this extent. She originally wanted to see Elvis and Lee's awkward look, but she ended up making them sad. Gu Mingming directly flew into Elvis's arms and bumped into him. She shook her head and said, "Hubby, nothing happened between you and Leah?" Elvis's back stiffened and he immediately lowered his shoulders. He said, "You are still so kind and soft-hearted. Even after such a thing happened, you still can't bear to kill me?" "Ha, but what should I do? I can't face you." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis tightly and said, "I didn't lie to you really. Both of you had a fight last night and it was a little fierce, so I used my beast pressure to make both of you faint afterward. Leah swayed his tail and stood up from the ground. He turned around and leaned against the side of the wooden barrel. He crossed his arms and looked at Gu Mengmeng. He said, Elvis, don't be so calculative. Anyway, I am the one at a disadvantage. I don't even mind. Why do you mind? Didn't Mengmeng always want to see such a scene? Let's just take it as a sacrifice to satisfy her. The veins on Elvis's forehead protruded. He looked at Leah coldly and said, Yeah, right, I almost forgot about you. With that, Elvis stretched out his sharp claws and pounced towards Leah, looking like he wanted to take his life. Leah lowered his body and easily dodged. He then pulled Gu Mengmeng over and pushed her in front of Elvis. He hid behind Gu Mengmeng and said, Mengmeng, look at him. He took advantage of me and still wants to abuse me. Sobs, 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 I can't live on anymore. If you can't, then go and die. Elvis said and wanted to attack again, but Leah just pushed Gu Mengmeng as a shield, dodging left and right to avoid Elvis's attack. Elvis was afraid of hurting Gu Mengmeng, so he tried many times but failed to hit Leah. Gu Mengmeng was dizzy from being shaken by Leah, but looking at the situation she understood that Leah had reacted and believed Gu Mengmeng's words, so Gu Mengmeng could only beg for mercy. All right, Leah, stop fooling around. Hurry and explain to Elvis he will get angry if you continue. Only then did Leah pull Gu Mengmeng into his arms, pinching her little nose and shaking it left and right. His long and narrow eyes were filled with ridicule and reproach, as well as overwhelming indulgence and pampering. Why didn't I see you being so obedient when you caused trouble? Are you begging for mercy now that you can't clean up the mess? I was wrong, I was wrong. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Leah with her innocent little puppy face and begged, Hurry up, Elvis will really flip out if you continue. Leah tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, I will settle the score with you later. Gu Mengmeng stuck out her little tongue and lowered her head in defeat. Leah, on the other hand, walked 2 steps towards Elvis out of boredom. He wanted to touch Elvis just now, but Elvis dodged away like he was avoiding the plague. His Xiaomeng should be treasured and listened to the most gentle words in the world. How could he bear to yell at her? Hugging Gu Mengmeng and kissing the top of her head, Elvis said guiltily, I'm sorry, I might have gone crazy to shout at you. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis with a smile, asking, Then let's treat it as if we're even. You're not allowed to settle scores after this. Chapter 1149. Leah tapped Gu Mengmeng's shoulder lightly and said, I didn't shout at you yesterday, right? Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah might have seen through her prank long ago, so he was not as agitated as Elvis and she did not feel so guilty towards him. But due to the two-faced nature of her fox, Gu Mengmeng decided not to fight him head-on. She pulled her lower lip and flipped the wound out for Leah to see, saying, Guess why Elvis fought with you yesterday? Leah frowned when he saw the wound on the inside of Gu Mengmeng's mouth, as if a needle was pricking his heart. Yes, I bit you? Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's head and kissed him. Leah was first taken aback, but quickly turned the tables around and held the back of Gu Mengmeng's head to deepen the kiss. He even used the tip of his tongue to gently stroke the wound on the inside of Gu Mengmeng's lower lip. Yeah, it matched his teeth. When they ended the kiss, Leah was already very sure that he was the one who caused the wound. His heart ached for her, but Leah would not apologize to her like Elvis. Instead, he pinched her little nose and said, Tell me, what did you do to anger me to the point that I want to bite you, huh? Gu Mengmeng's heart ached. She could not admit it. Gu Mengmeng instantly recalled the scene of Leah asking her if she liked him licking her with his drunken eyes. You're blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with great interest. He squinted his eyes and sniffed with his nose, saying, Fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mengmeng, did I forget something extremely important? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, No, no. Leah held onto Gu Mengmeng's waist and lifted her up. Gu Mengmeng's lower abdomen was pressed tightly against Lee's body. Lee's smile was devilish and sly, the corners of his lips curved into an ambiguous arc, saying, You didn't? Why do I feel that you definitely did, and it's very important? Gu Mengmeng, shouldn't you help me recall it personally? With the last word, Leah blew lightly into Gu Mengmeng's ear, causing her to feel numb all over her body. Taking a step back, Gu Mengmeng bit the corner of her lips and decided to take revenge. Thus he chuckled and said, I deserve to be bitten. Does seeing you cry count? Leah was taken aback and immediately denied, Impossible, I have never cried before. Elvis added, Yeah, I've never seen him cry before. Gu Mengmeng's shoulders shook as she chuckled. Then she placed both her hands on Lee's shoulders and said with a heartbroken look, I'm going to die soon, right? Meng Meng, am I going to die? Meng Meng, I don't want to die yet. Leah was stunned. He stared at Gu Meng Meng for a moment before saying, You made it up, right? Gu Meng Meng looked straight into Lee's eyes, then smiled and shook her head. Leah took a deep breath, then held onto Gu Meng Meng's shoulders with both hands. Forget it. Forget everything that happened from last night to just now. I don't forget. Gu Meng Meng straightened her neck and thought to herself, Who asked you to tease me, humph humph? Let's see who's better this time. Don't forget? Leah narrowed his eyes and smiled instead of getting angry. He said, Then, let's do something more memorable and erase the old memories. Leah and Elvis had been vegetarians for a long time. How would Gu Meng Meng not understand what Leah meant by something more memorable? But Chapter 1150. Silly girl. Leah hugged Gu Meng Meng's waist and said softly, Before we get the love of the sky, Elvis and I will not let you get pregnant. Elvis nodded and said, The snow is not thick enough, just in case I will go guard the cave in trance. Leah hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and gave Elvis a thank you look. The two of them did not say anything else, they had a tacit understanding between each other. After Elvis left, only Gu Meng Meng and Leah were left in the cave. Leah hooked Gu Meng Meng's little chin, his long and narrow eyes filled with lust, and he said, Because of you asking for a child, I endured for so long not daring to touch you. You have been torturing me so hard recently, how are you going to make it up to me, Gu Meng Meng clearly knew what was going to happen next, so she naturally did not dare to challenge Leah at this moment, or else with Lee's black-bellied character, he would make her unable to get off the ground for 3 days. Hooking her arms around Lee's neck, Gu Meng Meng smiled in an ingratiating manner and said with arched eyebrows and eyes, I will forget about you crying before, all right? Leah gritted his teeth and said, You are really good at spoiling the atmosphere. Do you think I will let you off just like that? Gu Meng Meng felt that she had been seen through, but she was not angry and just said shyly, Don't torment me too much, I am scared. Once Gu Meng Meng gave in, Lee's heart itched even more unbearable. He flipped over and pinned Gu Meng Meng under his body, gently biting her left earlobe and said in a low voice, My little Meng Meng, do you still remember what you promised me previously? Gu Meng Meng's face was blank, it was obvious that she had completely forgotten about it. When we were in solder, you thought of all sorts of nonsense and caused your nose to bleed. Elvis and I were so scared that we almost wanted to settle down by the stream. At that time you promised me that I could punish you however I wanted to. Now you want to go back on your word, huh? Lee's entire body was above Gu Meng Meng, giving off a strong sense of oppression and presence. Gu Meng Meng twisted her body, trying to fight for more space for herself but to no avail. Leah was bullying Gu Meng Meng with a force that could not be pushed away unless she hurt him, knowing that she could not bear to hurt him. Gu Meng Meng could not even breathe smoothly because of Leah. She blushed and said, How long has it been, you still remember it? Lee's kiss landed lightly on Gu Meng Meng's lips. He did not go deep and just kissed her lightly. I had originally forgotten about it, but you refused to change. I feel that if I don't teach you a deeper lesson and make you remember my sexual orientation, your little brain will always be filled with all sorts of nonsense. Gu Meng Meng's lips twitched. Fine, this time he was in the wrong again. Gu Meng Meng pulled out her arms and wrapped them around Lee's neck. She asked coquettishly, Then tell me, how should I punish him? Do you like me? Leah suddenly asked. Gu Meng Meng took the initiative to offer her own lips and kissed Lee's Adam's apple. She said, I like you. Then, lick me. Leah smiled extremely devilishly, a teasing look in his eyes. Gu Meng Meng was stunned and blushed instantly. She said, Aren't you drunk? Why do you still remember? Chapter 1151. Let's change another one. Gu Meng Meng begged for mercy. It's too embarrassing, I can't do it. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Meng Meng's left earlobe. Gu Meng Meng, do you know? I really like this mark. It's on your left ear and it's whispering sweet nothings to you on behalf of me every day. It's chattering non-stop. Then Lee's kiss landed on Gu Meng Meng's eyes. Gu Meng Meng instinctively closed her eyes and allowed his lips to gently cover her eyes. Then, with a wet sensation, Gu Meng Meng knew that Leah had used his tongue to lick her eyes. I also like your eyes, they're so clean and transparent. The radiance in your eyes makes the stars in the sky dim and dull. When my shadow is reflected in those eyes, I feel that I'm the happiest person in this world. Lee's lips moved downwards and landed on Gu Meng Meng's little nose. He kissed it and then bit it lightly. The tip of his tongue brushed past it and Gu Meng Meng laughed out loud from the tickling. I like your nose, especially when you're so proud of yourself. It's so vivid that I can see your mischievousness and cuteness, so I can't help but want to pinch it. Oh, right, I also like the joyful smile on your face when you use it to smell the food I cooked for you. He then moved downwards and kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly. He pecked and kissed 7 to 8 times before finally covering her lips deeply. His nimble tongue tangled with the tip of her tongue in her mouth and danced with hers. I also like your lips. When you laugh, when you're playing around, when you're aroused, even when you're scolding me, every note they make fascinates me, makes me sink, and makes me unable to control myself. No matter where I am, as long as this little mouth calls out to me, even if we're separated by mountains and oceans, I'll still fly towards you, disregarding everything. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, he brought it to his lips and kissed it. Then he bit each of her fingers and sucked on them gently. I like your little hands. When you wave at me, when you hug me, when you hold my hand, and when you twist my ear. It clearly transmitted your warmth to me and warmed my cold soul. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's entire body. Every time he kissed a spot, he would say a reason and a sentence of love. Gu Mingming's maiden heart exploded like popcorn, and she felt as sweet as if she was soaked in honey. Mingming, what about you? What do you like about me? Leah circled one arm around Gu Mingming's waist while the other supported the back of her head. With a flip, Gu Mingming laid on his chest. Like what I did just now, lick the place you like, let me know how much you like me, Perhaps it was because the atmosphere Leah had created was too perfect that Gu Mingming really felt that licking someone was not something that was embarrassing or unacceptable. Lying on Lee's chest like a cat, Gu Mingming kissed Lee's eyes lightly and said softly, I like your eyes. They slanted to the temples and hid thousands of ravines, but they gave me the exclusive love of the 3,000 worldly mortal world just for my deep love. Chapter 1152. Holding onto Lee's hand, Gu Mingming kissed his palm. Then she placed his large hand on her face and rubbed it gently. I like your hand too. It's slender and bony with distinct joints. Time and time again, it would support my shoulders when I was helpless and tell me not to be afraid. No matter what happens, it would always prioritize protecting me and taking care of me. Gu Mingming mimicked Leah and kissed almost all over his body. Finally, she laid back on Lee's chest and kissed his heart. I like this heart the most. That's because I'm the only one in it. Lee's heart was lit up by Gu Mingming's words of love. The sparks connected and formed a prairie fire. Once it started, it could not be stopped. A round of pleasure could not be avoided. The ambiguity was scattered all over the floor and it evolved into a symphony of love and love. Leah had been sober for a long time. This time he was a little more ruthless. Gu Mingming did it 3 times when she was awake and 2 more times after she fainted before he finally stopped. As a result, Gu Mingming was so exhausted that she slept till the sky turned dark. When she woke up, she did not even know how many days had passed. The bruises on her body had already disappeared and her fatigue was almost negligible. If Snake knew that the shocking recovery ability he left for her had been used in such a place, he would probably fly into a rage. You're awake, Leah crawled beside Gu Mingming like a satisfied cat. His thick tail swayed to show his master's good mood. Gu Mingming stretched out her hand and Leah automatically placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Then he poked Gu Mingming's warm and soft little face with his finger. Are you hungry? The meat is already cooked and placed in the snow at the entrance of the cave to be frozen. You can eat it after heating it up. Gu Mingming shook her head. I just woke up, I don't feel like eating. Leah nodded. Then I won't eat it. You can touch me first. Gu Mingming paused. Did he start the topic of touch me after lick me? Gu Mingming was really scared. She did not know what shameful topic Leah would come up with next. She hurriedly let go of Lee's large tail and turned around. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. Hubby, I'm thirsty. Then he took out a small bamboo cup and poured a cup of water for her. I was afraid that you would get a nosebleed due to excessive internal heat, so I kept the water boiling on the fire in the cave. But it's a little hot. Drink slowly. Gu Mingming replied. She lifted the cup and started sipping the water. Leah knew that she was shy and did not continue teasing her. After all, Gu Mingming had not eaten before making love. Now that she had slept so much, her stomach must be empty. So Leah got off the bed and went to the entrance of the cave to retrieve the stewed meat that was frozen in the snow. He placed it in the pot and heated it up. Chapter 1153. The 2 males looked at Gu Mingming in horror as she finished the entire glass of wine with gusto. They poured another glass as if they had not had enough. Xiaoming, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Elvis clearly remembered that he felt lightheaded after drinking that glass yesterday. His brain was filled with all sorts of thoughts, but he could not sort them out. The large amount of fragmented information directly broke his nerves and he could not get up again. He could not remember how he got up and what he did after that. So, according to their body proportions, the same amount of wine that caused him such a heavy injury could be fatal to Gu Mingming? But why did Gu Mingming look like nothing happened to her? Just that her cheeks were red like a tempting apple. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis was scared by the wine. After the previous experience of teasing him to the point that he almost dragged Leah to die to atone for his sins, Gu Mingming did not dare to tease Elvis anymore. So she answered honestly, "Wine is a beauty tonic. The amino acids, minerals and vitamins contained in it can be absorbed directly. Drinking a little every day can help you beautify your skin." But Elvis frowned. After all, his first experience with wine was not that great. Gu Mingming knew what he was worried about. She smiled and said, "Everyone has different levels of allergy to alcohol. Yeah, for example, you are the type of person who will pass out after one glass. Leah is slightly better. Although he only drank one glass, he at least knows what he did when he was drunk. As for me, haha, I should be invisible in our world. But here." Gu Mingming lifted her left leg and stepped on the stool. She placed her left hand, which was holding the wine glass, on her arched knee. She lifted her chin and smiled in a bold and unrestrained manner. "The emperor calls for me but refuses to board the boat. I call myself a god of wine." Actually, Elvis and Leah did not understand what she was saying. But Lee's gaze was shining and burning hot. It was the feeling of a cult member meeting their leader. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She looked at Leah and asked, Why are you looking at me like that? That sentence just now was also part of the esoterica, right? Although it was a question, Leah used a definite tone. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a while. After thinking for a while, she recalled that Leah was the ninth highness of Sauter, and Sauter was a weird tribe that had worshipped 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he nodded and said, "Yes, it should be." Leah knelt on one knee and held Gu Mingming's little hands with both his hands. He looked at Gu Mingming with eyes full of anticipation, as excited as a Samoyed that suddenly saw a meat bone after starving for a few days. His furry tail wagged furiously behind him and his longing gaze made Gu Mingming feel that rejecting him was a crazy thing to do. Clearing her throat, Gu Mingming forced herself to recite the entire poem again. Li Bai wrote 100 poems in one go, sleeping in a tavern in Chang'an City. The Son of Heaven called me, but I refused to come on board, calling myself an immortal of wine. Leah cupped his hands over his heart and frowned. He bit his lower lip lightly with a flushed face and exerted more force on his hand, as if his heart would jump out if he didn't do that. Gu Mingming held her forehead and asked, Are you all right? Chapter 1155. Based on the fact that Lee's adaptability to alcohol was better than Elvis's, and Elvis was stronger in terms of strength, even if Leah were to go crazy after drinking, Elvis would be able to suppress him. Hence, the two of them discussed and decided that Leah would be the one to taste the alcohol while Elvis would not touch a single drop. Gu Mingming said that there was no need for that. There were only a few barrels of wine and the only grapes she had seen so far were the stray beasts. Now that Peter was no longer the leader of the stray beasts, it was no longer convenient for them to pluck grapes from the stray beasts. So Gu Mingming wanted to drink sparingly. Even if it was not convenient for Elvis and Leah to drink, there was no need to force them. She could drink by herself really. But Elvis and Leah did not agree. They had already determined that the wine was a dangerous item. Unless Leah personally verified that it was harmless, he would not allow Gu Mingming to touch it by herself. So Gu Mingming, who could drink, was forbidden from touching it, while Leah, who passed out after one glass, began his drunken rampage every day. The drunken Leah changed his demeanor. He chased after Gu Mingming while waving his little leather whip. He also bit his lower lip and removed his beast-skin dress to expose himself in front of Gu Mingming for her to ravage. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws, fought with Elvis, and cried bitterly as he hugged Elvis and talked about the past. Anyway, this winter was not a lonely one because of Lee's various tricks. However, even though Leah had finished a few barrels of wine, his alcohol tolerance did not improve at all. It was not that he did not improve at all, it was just that, from 1 glass to 1.5 glasses, this improvement left Gu Mingming speechless. Most people would have at least gone from 1 glass to a bottle after drinking for so long, right? She felt heartache for those barrels of wine. It was all for nothing. When the snow sealing the cave started to crack, Gu Mingming knew that this winter was over. Leaning in Elvis's arms, Gu Mingming looked at Leah, who was in a much better mental state after 2 to 3 days without a hangover after drinking all the wine. She smiled helplessly and said, "Do you still remember what you set up before winter after leading a befuddled life for the entire winter?" Leah held his forehead. His persistent hangover had caused him to not remember anything else other than that mating. It was all a mess of drunken rampages. The arrangements before winter. Closing his eyes, Leah organized his thoughts and said, "Mingming, what do you plan to do after winter ends?" "Aren't we already booked to go to the Moda Mountains?" Gu Mingming countered. Leah chuckled. "What's there to fix? Everything depends on your mood." Gu Mingming chuckled. "So, there's a second option if I don't go to Moda Mountains." Leah nodded and answered, "I spread 2 pieces of news before winter. One was that you personally told Maya about the Moda Mountains and the other was that I accidentally leaked the heart of the desert." Gu Mingming was confused. "But we don't even know where the heart of the desert is. It can't be an option." Lee's lips curled into a beautiful arc. He looked thoughtfully at the cracked but not broken snow sealing the entrance of the cave. "After winter ends it will come to us on its own. Just like Kiss of the Ocean and Soul of the Forest." "You mean?" Gu Mingming frowned and asked. "You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.